Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we've got something really fascinating lined up. We're diving into a pretty dense set of sources. These aren't just, standard theological discussions. We're looking at what feels like, well, like an actual cosmic architectural blueprint.
That's right. It's a map of God's reality, and our sources actually call it the actual sanctuary Ka.
The actual sanctuary. So what's our mission here? What are we trying to figure out with this blueprint?
It's a big one. We're essentially charting the cosmic geography, mapping out the relationship between this transcendent creator and the universe he made. And that means we really need to dig into the structure of time, space, how free will actually works, and even the, let's say, physical geography of the heavens and, well, the underworld.
Okay, so this isn't just abstract theory. We're talking structure, physics of the divine realm almost.
Pretty much. We need to figure out exactly where the throne is, how does its location relate to us, to creation.
And crucially, why do our choices even matter inside such a, frankly, mind-boggling framework?
And to even start thinking about that, we absolutely have to get our heads around the sheer scale difference first. I mean, this perspective shift is non-negotiable. We need to internalize just how vast, how transcendent God is compared to everything he created, which is fundamentally limited.
Right. That contrast is the foundation for everything else. Okay, let's unpack that scale difference. Where do the sources anchor this?
They take us straight to the Hebrew scriptures, specifically 2 Chronicles. It starts with this fundamental problem. How do you build a house for God?
Solomon's temple.
Exactly. Solomon's own realization, you find it in 2 Chronicles 2.5, it's like the starting gun for this whole line of thought. God is greater than all gods. Simple statement, profound implications.
Okay.
So if you accept that, then the question Solomon asks later in 2 Chronicles 6.18 becomes unavoidable. Who can build him a house when even the heavens of the heavens cannot contain him?
The heavens of the heavens. That phrase itself suggests something vast. Not just the sky we see, maybe not even just outer space.
It feels like it points to the entire structure of celestial reality, doesn't it? Maybe multiple dimensions, different planes of existence, things we can't even begin to measure.
And even that whole incomprehensible structure is too small.
Yeah, it's a statement about both dimension and maybe equality. Anything created is, by its very nature, finite. It's contained. God, as the creator, is outside that container. So the universe, vast as it seems to us, isn't some infinite playground for an infinite God. It's a bounded creation. It reflects his nature, sure, but it can't actually house his totality.
Whoa, okay. Let's just sit with that spatial contrast for a second. I mean, we spend our whole lives focused on this tiny blue marble, right? Our politics, our economies, our history. If the entire heavens of heavens are too small, what does our Earth look like from that perspective? It's almost unnerving.
It perfectly sets up that incredible imagery in Isaiah 40, verses 15 to 17. When God looks at all the nations on Earth, they're just functionally irrelevant in terms of scale.
How does Isaiah put it?
Like a drop from a bucket, or a small speck of dust on the scale. Even huge land masses, islands, are like floating dust.
Wow. A drop in a bucket, floating dust.
Yeah. And the spiritual impact of really taking that transcendence seriously, it's humbling, to say the least. It's hard for us to imagine, but the sources are explicit. When all nations are gathered before him, they're seen as nothing or empty.
But that's not like divine contempt, is it? It's just a statement of scale.
Yeah, exactly. It's purely about the measure.
Yeah.
If you're grappling with containing an infinite being in a finite space, you first have to accept that all our finite concerns, all the dramas we play out on this speck of dust, they're relative to nothingness when you measure them against the absolute.
But that creates a huge tension, doesn't it? If the universe is just a dust speck and God is totally transcendent, utterly beyond it, why is he involved at all? Why not just stay detached?
Ah, yes. That's the core paradox we keep bumping up against, the tension between transcendence and immanence. Jeremiah 23 nails this, verses 23 and 24. God is the God who is near and who is far.
Near and far simultaneously.
Right. He fills heaven and earth. That's why, even though he can't be contained, no created being can actually hide from him. He's completely outside the boundaries of creation, yet somehow he's present everywhere within it, sustaining it moment by moment.
Okay, so he's both beyond measure and intimately present, that presence.
Yeah.
It leads to another really big concept in these sources, right? About the nature of being itself.
Yes. The idea that God is the God of existence.
Yeah.
But also of non-existence.
Okay, what does that mean practically?
Yeah, it's a fundamental pillar of this whole structure. Since God is the ultimate uncaused source of everything, He alone has the power, the absolute prerogative, to call things that don't exist into existence.
Like creation ex nihilo, out of nothing.
Precisely. And the flip side is just as important. If he wills it, existence itself could just revert to non-existence. Everything only exists because he actively keeps it going.
That connects powerfully to something you mentioned earlier. Our existence isn't static. It's like an ongoing act of divine will.
Exactly. The sources point to Job 34, verses 14 and 15. If God were to just withdraw his spirit, his breath, all flesh would perish instantly, return to dust.
So our physical reality, the universe itself, is like a sustained thought in the mind of God.
In a manner of speaking, yes. And if God encompasses all of existence and non-existence, then the things that define our reality, time and space, they must also be relative to him. Secondary, maybe?
The sources say they're more than secondary, don't they? They're actually creations. The term used is...
Yes, created phenomena. Romans 8, verses 38 and 39 is highlighted here. Paul lists things that can't separate us from God's love.
Well, what's on that list?
Things like present events or future events. There's basically our concept of time and height or depth, our concept of space, of dimension.
So by listing them as things we interact with, Scripture is basically saying they are created things, limited boundaries set up for us.
That's the interpretation here. And if time and space are creations, then for the Creator, well, they're less than that drop of water or speck of dust we talked about. They're functionally nothing from his perspective.
Which implies
Yeah.
that our whole linear flow of history, past, present, future, is like a single instant to God.
That's the critical piece of this cosmic architecture. The entirety of the past, present, and future resides within God. You can't talk about the future existing outside of God because, theologically speaking, outside of God isn't a place. It doesn't exist.
He's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end.
Right. He sees the whole story, the finished novel, all at once. We're stuck reading it line by line, page by page.
Okay, that dramatically reframes reality. But if God contains all time and space, why are we stuck in this linear flow? Why can't we as creatures be omnitemporal or exist in multiple places at once?
That gets into the purpose behind these limits. It's about divine containment, and it seems to be necessary for the whole drama of creation to play out. God actively maintains this space-time structure, specifically so that created beings, angels, humans, cannot exist everywhere and everywhen simultaneously.
Why? What's the point of that limitation?
Our limitation is what forces us to learn, to grow, to exercise moral agency sequentially, through experience. Think about it. If you already knew the outcome of every single choice you could possibly make, or if you experienced the consequences at the exact same moment you made the choice.
The whole idea of moral development, of learning from mistakes, of growing over time, it would just collapse.
Exactly. The system depends on linear history.
So this feeling of being trapped in time, moving 1 second at a time and one place at a time, it's actually a feature, not a bug. It's the necessary framework for us to develop.
Well, to develop free will.
Limited free will, yes.
Yeah.
Within that carefully constructed framework. And that's the perfect transition. Because we are restricted to linear time and a single location, we're inherently limited creatures. Confined.
Confined to this flow. Which means, number one, we're not omniscient. We can't know everything. We have to learn through sequential experience, through time.
And number two, we're not omnipotent. We can't do everything. Our choices are limited to what's actually possible for a finite being. If something is genuinely impossible for me to do, the choice to do it is meaningless, irrelevant.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which loops us back to that core paradox. Truly free, unrestricted will seems like it could only belong to the omnipotent, to God himself.
Right. Yet the sources insist God grants a form of free will, albeit limited, to creatures like us existing within these very strict spatial and temporal boundaries.
And this is where the tension really builds for anyone listening. How can we genuinely have free will if we exist inside a universe that is, by definition, utterly controlled by an omnipotent God?
Yeah, because you just describe a system where God controls every possible external situation, down to the tiniest detail, like a sparrow falling. For a lot of people, that sounds less like freedom and more like a perfectly designed experiment in a closed box. Where's the real agency if the environment is so tightly managed?
Okay, that's the crucial distinction the sources are drawing here. God perfectly controls every single situation, the external environment, for each individual creature.
But
he does not control the choice the creature makes within that situation. Think of it like this. He meticulously sets the stage, arranges all the props, controls the lighting, but he doesn't write the actors' lines or control how they deliver them. The monologue is theirs.
So that famous verse, Matthew 10.29, not one sparrow falls without the Father's permission, that's
Yeah.
primarily a statement about God's control over the environment, the circumstances.
Exactly. It's the divine control mechanism over the context of choice. And this control guarantees two things that are absolutely essential for genuine moral agency to function.
Okay, what are they?
First, the situation is never so impossibly difficult that sin becomes unavoidable. Remember 1 Corinthians 10:4-3. God always provides a way out, an escape route. You're never truly trapped into doing wrong.
Okay, so sin is never inevitable due to circumstance. What's the second thing?
Second, the situation is never so easy or straightforward that righteousness is guaranteed or that moral growth isn't required. He doesn't make it too easy either. He establishes the optimal conditions, perfectly calibrated, for a genuine, often difficult, moral choice to be made.
The complexity is in that calibration, isn't it? If the conditions are perfectly matched to my specific abilities and my specific weaknesses, I always can choose righteousness, but I'm never forced into it.
That's the idea. The choice remains authentically yours, even though the environment itself was meticulously crafted by God.
So the control creates the arena for choice. It allows the creature to fully express its internal preference, its heart.
Yes, the system is designed precisely for that, to allow our decision to be a true reflection of who we are internally, not just a reaction to overwhelming external pressure. Our limited free will operates under this constant, precise, divine supervision, ensuring the choice is meaningful.
But okay, free will isn't just random, right? We don't just choose for no reason. The sources mention something about conviction, that we need to be convinced the word used was napduk.
Yes, conviction is key. It's the psychological, maybe spiritual root of the decision. A choice made without any underlying reason or conviction isn't really free. It's just arbitrary, random noise. So God ensures that creatures have the opportunity to understand why they should choose a certain way. He provides the compelling reason, the basis for that conviction.
And the ultimate compelling reason, according to the sources,
Is the love of Christ. They point directly to 2 Corinthians 5:1, for the love of Christ compels us.
compels. That sounds strong.
It is strong, but it's not coercion. It's presented as the ultimate undeniable reason for choosing righteousness. The cross, in this view, demonstrates both the horrific cost of sin and the infinite value God places on the creature. That provides the ultimate logical and emotional motivation to choose selflessness, to choose God's way.
And learning the depth of that truth, gaining that conviction happens. How?
Through the flow of time, through history, through revelation, through personal experience, which brings us right back to why we exist in this linear sequential system in the first place. It's the necessary classroom for conviction to develop.
A curriculum designed for the perfection of choice. Makes sense. But
Yeah.
even with the perfect curriculum, the perfect reason presented, the unavoidable possibility of sin still remains, doesn't it?
That is the inherent dark side of granting free will to a limited creaturely being. Even with all the instruction, all the compelling love demonstrated, not everyone obeys. Not everyone chooses love.
Because free will, given to someone like us, inherently includes the possibility of choosing wrongly.
Yes, it is the possibility of sin. And the sources argue that if even a tiny possibility, say 1%, remains for a creature to sin, given enough time or opportunity within their limited mortal existence, that freedom will inevitably lead to transgression at some point.
It's almost a statistical certainty in a limited being.
That seems to be the implication. The creature was placed within the realm of death, as Romans 3.19 puts it. This fundamental tension between a limited, controlled environment for choice and the constant, inherent possibility of falling is the engine driving the whole cosmic drama.
And that drama requires a stage, a vast architectural structure.
Which brings us to mapping the actual sanctuary itself.
Okay, so we've established the rules of the game, so to speak. We're limited creatures operating under precisely controlled conditions designed for moral growth and the development of conviction. Now let's look at the place where this all happens. Let's pivot to the actual cosmic architecture, the actual sanctuary.
Right. And the first thing to grasp about this architecture is that it's entirely Christocentric. Everything revolves around Christ.
How so?
Colossians 1, verses 15-17 is absolutely key here. It states that all creation, everything visible and invisible, including things like thrones, dominions, principalities, powers, all the angelic hierarchies, all of it was created through the Lord Jesus Christ and for him.
So the cosmos is fundamentally his domain. Its structure reflects him and his purpose.
Exactly. And this structure particularly reflects the process of redemption he oversees. To understand this cosmic reality, the sources tell us to look at the earthly model he provided.
The tabernacle built by Moses in the wilderness?
Yes. Hebrews 8.5 confirms this explicitly. The physical tabernacle was just a model and a shadow of the true things in heaven. The reality is a vast, maybe multi-dimensional cosmic structure.
Okay, let's map it out then. Where do we start? At the very center.
Let's start at the absolute center, the peak of this cosmic map.
Yeah.
The Holy of Holies, or Exionso. In the tabernacle, that was the innermost room, cube-shaped, holding the Ark of the Covenant. What's its cosmic equivalent? It's the highest heaven, the specific location of the throne of God, the adjoining way. The sources draw on vivid descriptions, like from Isaiah 14, verses 13 and 14, which places it on the mountain of assembly, positioned above the stars of God, even above the highest clouds. It's the absolute apex of creation, the ultimate command center.
And the Ark of the Covenant down on earth symbolized this throne.
Yes, covered by the mercy seat with the two golden cherubim overshadowing it. Those cherubim are significant. They represent the throne's immediate attendants, guardians, perhaps.
And is the actual throne, the cosmic one, fixed in place?
Interestingly, no. The sources point to texts like 2 Samuel 22.1, suggesting the throne is mobile. It's supported and carried by the cherubim, described as flying upon the wings of the wind.
Wow, so it's not static. It speaks to God's active presence and power throughout the cosmos.
Precisely. It's dynamic, not fixed. Okay, moving outwards from that absolute center, the next layer is the sanctuary proper, the Sionso.
In the tabernacle, this was the larger room just outside the Holy of Holies, with the lampstand, table of showbread, and altar of incense. Cosmically.
This represents the angel heaven overall, the realm inhabited by the non-fallen angels. Structurally, the sources link this to the descriptions of the tabernacle coverings in Exodus 76.8 fabric embroidered everywhere with cherubim. It emphasizes the sheer multitude of righteous angelic beings filling this sphere. It's the realm of pure, perfected, divine order and worship.
And within this sanctuary area, this angel heaven, we also find the cosmic equivalent of the lampstand.
Yes, the 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which Revelation 4.5 identifies as the 7 spirits of God. This is the source of divine light, illumination, and guidance for all of creation.
Okay, so Holy of Holies with the throne, surrounded by the sanctuary or angel heaven, what separates them? In the tabernacle, it was the thick veil, the curtain.
Right, the veil or curtain. That high barrier that was torn dramatically when Christ died. What's the cosmic equivalent? It symbolizes the boundary protecting God's most immediate, overwhelming, unfiltered presence. The sources offer a couple of interpretations based on Scripture.
Such as?
One idea is that it corresponds to the highest clouds, mentioned in Job 26.9, as something God uses to veil his throne, like a physical spiritual barrier.
Okay. And the other?
The other interpretation links it to the 4 living creatures, the cherubim or seraphim, described in Revelation 4.6 as being constantly around the throne. They themselves act as the living guarding veil.
Either way, it's a boundary, defining the limit that cannot be crossed lightly or by anything impure.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving further out now, or maybe down is a better word, vertically. Below the immediate sanctuary area, but still before the throne complex, we find a really striking feature mentioned in Revelation, the glass sea, the Uibada.
Ah, yes. Described as being like crystal. What does this correspond to in the tabernacle model?
This is crucial for creatures like us. It corresponds directly to the laver, the Wildumyong, that big bronze basin filled with water that stood between the altar of burnt offering and the entrance to the holy place.
And the priests had to wash their hands and feet there before they could enter the sanctuary or approach the altar. If they didn't, they'd die.
Precisely. Its function in the cosmos is identical, according to these sources. The glass sea is explicitly a place for cleansing and separation from sin. It's the ultimate purity checkpoint.
So, no created, being still marked by sin, still defiled, can pass the laver, the glass sea barrier, and enter the angel heaven, the sanctuary proper.
Correct. Crossing it successfully is the prerequisite for ascent into God's pure presence.
Okay. So we have the throne, the angel heaven, the veil, the glass sea. What's at the very bottom of this structure? The foundation, maybe?
At the lowest point, yes, we find the realm of judgment, destruction, and containment. Hades or Sheol, the Imbu.
The underworld. Where does it sit in relation to the glass sea?
It's located beneath the glass sea. It's referred to in places like Job 26.6 as the pit, or the destroying pit, Abaddon. It's the spiritual opposite of the Holy of Holies.
And in the tabernacle model, what does Hades correspond to? This seems unexpected.
It corresponds to the altar of burnt offering, the Yua Bianshan.
Wait, the main altar, where sacrifices were made for atonement. That symbolizes Hades, the pit, The lake of fire? That sounds really counterintuitive.
It does initially, but think about what the altar represented. It symbolized death. Specifically, the necessary consequence of sin, which had to be paid, often through a substitutionary sacrifice.
Really? Death is the consequence of sin.
Right. Hades, then, is the place where that consequence is fully realized or contained. It's the prison, the realm of darkness, where fallen angels and unrepentant sinners are held until the final judgment, as mentioned in 2 Peter 2.4.
So the altar symbolizes the judgment itself, the consequence, death, and Hades is the location where the condemned experience that consequence. It represents the necessary destruction required for cosmic purification.
That's the interpretation presented. The altar points to the fiery judgment, and Hades Sheol is that realm of darkness and eventual fiery destruction, symbolized ultimately by the lake of fire.
Wow. Okay, so we have a complete vertical map laid out. At the top, the throne in the Holy of Holies. Below that, the angel heaven sanctuary, separated by the veil clouds cherubim. Below that, the cleansing boundary of the glass sea laver. And beneath that, the realm of darkness, judgment, and death, Hades Sheol, symbolized by the altar.
That's the structure. And this structure confirms that the path of salvation, the path for a creature to reach God, is literally conceived as a journey of ascent and purification through these distinct cosmic zones.
Exactly. So given the specific cosmic architecture, the path of redemption for any creature becomes really clear. It's defined by successfully navigating and passing those boundaries.
Primarily, the glass sea.
Yes. To enter the actual sanctuary, the angel heaven, you must first successfully cross the glass sea, the laver.
And crossing it means what exactly?
Yeah.
Just believing. It means achieving total, demonstrable separation from sin. And this happens, according to the sources, through the work and the word of Jesus Christ. They use a powerful historical parallel to illustrate this.
Let me guess. The Exodus.
Bingo. The Exodus narrative serves as a perfect spiritual roadmap for this journey.
How does it map out?
Okay, so the Passover, the lamb's blood on the doorposts in Egypt, that symbolizes the cross. It's the initial application of Christ's blood that grants forgiveness and escape from Satan's dominion, represented by Pharaoh in Egypt.
Right, the escape from bondage. What's next?
Then comes the crossing of the Red Sea, that dramatic parting of the waters. That symbolizes crossing the glass sea. It's explicitly linked to baptism in 1 Corinthians 10, verses 1 and 2.
And that crossing wasn't just getting your feet wet. It was the definitive act of separation, wasn't it? Israel emerged on the other side, reborn as a people separated from the kingdom of Egypt, which was then destroyed behind them.
Precisely. The glass sea represents baptism, as 1 Peter 3.21 also suggests. It symbolizes putting off the old self, the body of the flesh, dying to sin, and being raised up into new life, with Christ Colossians 2, verses 11 and 12 covers this.
Okay, so baptism is the entry point, the crossing. But the sources seem to add another layer, don't they, about standing on the glass sea.
Yes, this is a crucial clarification. Being forgiven and baptized is the initiation, the crossing itself. But to actually stand victoriously on the far side of the glass sea, as seen in Revelation, requires more. It requires overcoming.
Overcoming what? This sounds like an active process, not just a passive receiving.
It absolutely is. Revelation 15.2 is cited here. It says, only those who have gained the victory over or overcome the beast and its image and the number of its name. They are the ones seen standing on the glass sea.
The beast. So overcoming systemic evil, deception, idolatry.
Yes. It demands a profound level of spiritual commitment. It means actively overcoming sin in your life, dying completely to your old self-centered nature. The sources emphasize not sparing your life even unto death, and maintaining absolute loyalty to God's commandments, even under pressure.
Like Revelation 12.011 mentions, overcoming by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, loving not their lives even unto death.
Exactly that. The baptism, the crossing of the sea, has to be lived out as a total commitment. It's a death and resurrection where the old creature, the one ruled by self and sin, is decisively discarded and left behind.
So this overcoming is the practical, lived-out proof of the choice we talked about earlier. The choice made under that system of controlled free will. It validates the genuineness of the person's conviction.
Perfectly put. It's the evidence that the choice was real and transformative. And interestingly, the glass sea itself has another characteristic in Revelation 15. It's not just like crystal.
What else?
It's described as being mixed with fire.
Fire? Why fire? That sounds intense, judgmental even.
It signifies both judgment and intense purification. It suggests that the very passage across this boundary, the final step into the sanctuary's realm, is linked somehow to the fiery trials and judgments happening on earth, perhaps God's wrath being poured out. But for these overcoming witnesses, the fire acts as a final crucible. It doesn't destroy them, it refines them, purges the last dross before they can enter the pure presence.
So even victory involves passing through fire. It confirms the absolute holiness required to ascend.
Yes. Now let's talk about the significance of these witnesses who overcome. Their victory serves a purpose far bigger than just their own personal salvation.
What purpose?
They essentially validate God's entire divine legal system. This is a core structural insight from the sources.
How do they do that?
By successfully keeping the commandments, by resisting the pressures of the beast's system, by dying to self, they prove definitively and publicly that God's commands are sufficient. They are keepable by created beings, even flawed human beings, when empowered by God's Spirit and motivated by Christ's love.
So if the commands can be kept, then violating them, things like violence, oppression, systemic corruption, crushing your neighbor, as Malachi 3.5 puts it, isn't just a forgivable mistake, it's a genuine crime, justly punishable.
Exactly. The resurrection and transformation of these victorious witnesses serve as incontrovertible proof that God's standard was just and achievable all along. Their victory establishes the moral law as the unchallengeable foundation for the judgment that follows. It justifies God's condemnation of the unrighteous.
Makes sense. Their success proves the fairness of the standard.
Right. And immediately after this proving, having been raised and transformed, these witnesses are caught up into the sky like 1 Thessalonians 4:16 describes. And what do? They begin singing the Song of Moses and the Lamb, as Revelation 15:3 says.
The Song of Moses, like after the Red Sea crossing.
Precisely. It symbolizes the final ultimate exodus, the passage out of the temporary fallen creation marked by sin and death and into the permanent perfection and safety of the actual sanctuary.
It's a journey that starts in darkness, doesn't it?
It does. Hades, the realm below, is fundamentally darkness. But right from the beginning, Genesis 1:3, God created light in that darkness.
And the sources identify the true ultimate light as
Jesus Christ himself. John 1:9-10 calls him the true light coming into the world. He's not just the guide on the path. He is the path.
He's the door, John 10.7, the way, John 14.6, the temple itself, and the life, John 11.25.
Yes. And crucially, life, true eternal life, is only transmitted to creatures through him. 1 John 5:12 says, "He who has the Son has life. He who does not have the Son of God does not have life." He is the unique bridge out of the darkness of Hades, the only path that bypasses the finality of the altar's judgment and leads up into the sanctuary. The sources are absolutely definitive on this. The only place creatures can truly eternally exist is in him. Okay, so as these victorious witnesses are resurrected, transformed, and ascend across that fiery glass sea, that signals the start of the final sequence back on Earth, or rather within the lower realms of creation. The pouring out of the 7 bowls, or 7 plagues. This is described as the fullness of God's wrath, specifically targeted to devastate Hades, the realm of darkness and rebellion.
So the judgment phase begins in earnest. And this devastation is followed by something even more fundamental, right? A change in the very structure of the universe.
Yes, a cataclysmic change. The sources point to 2 Peter 3.11, which talks about the heavens being destroyed by fire and the elements melting in the heat. The first heaven and first earth, this temporary limited space-time framework we currently inhabit, are dissolved, purified by destruction.
And then?
And the new heaven and new earth are established. Now, our sources equate this new structure directly with the 1,000-year kingdom, often referred to elsewhere as the restored paradise, or Eden. It's the beginning of the final perfected state.
Okay, this brings us to probably the most complex piece of this whole cosmic geography puzzle, the issue of the changing seas.
Ah, yes. This requires careful attention to the details in Revelation.
Revelation 21.1 says that when John saw the new heaven and new earth, the sea was no more. The sea disappeared.
Right. But this requires us to understand how the sources interpret the different waters mentioned in Scripture. In ancient cosmology, often reflected here, there's a distinction between the waters above the firmament, or expanse, and the waters below the firmament.
Okay, 2 different kinds of cosmic water. So which sea disappears in Revelation 21.1?
The source interprets the vanishing sea as the waters below the firmament.
Why specifically the waters below? What do they represent?
Because the waters below are consistently associated with chaos, with the underworld. Hades Sheol is often depicted as being beneath or within these waters, with the fallen world of mankind, and specifically with the domain of the dragon, Leviathan, who dwells in the sea, according to Isaiah 27.1.
So this sea represents instability, rebellion, the depths where darkness resides.
Exactly. It's the architectural foundation, if you will, of the fallen temporary world. For the new heaven and new earth, the realm of perfect order and stability to be established, that source of chaotic, mortal, Hades-linked water must vanish completely. Its removal signals the end of the old, corrupted order.
Okay, that makes sense structurally. The chaotic sea linked to Hades is gone, but then there's another mention of the sea later, isn't there?
Yes, and this is where it gets tricky, and the synthesis is crucial. Revelation 20.13, describing the great white throne judgment, which happens after the 1,000-year kingdom, says that the sea gave up the dead that were in it.
So if the chaotic sea of Revelation 21.1 was gone before the millennium started, what is the second sea that exists after the millennium and gives up its dead for judgment?
This is where the source brings in the other waters. It interprets this subsequent sea, the one present at the final judgment, as the waters above the firmament.
The waters above... Wait, you mean the glass sea?
That's the interpretation. The glass sea, that sea of cleansing and purification that stands before the throne, remains. Perhaps it's no longer mixed with fire after the initial purification, but it persists as the permanent, stable, crystalline boundary of the heavenly realm.
Ah, so only the chaotic lower waters associated with Hades and the dragon are destroyed. The purified heavenly sea, the boundary of the sanctuary, remains.
Exactly. It's a complete cosmic realignment. The unstable, mortal, chaotic sea linked to rebellion vanishes, leaving only the stable, crystal-like boundary associated with God's holiness. This dramatically confirms the end of the age of chaos and mortality.
Wow. Okay, that clarifies the geography significantly. Let's trace the final judgments using this map. The 1,000-year kingdom begins, Earth is restored, paradise-like, and Satan.
Satan is bound and cast into the abyss, the
Yeah.
Jero gang, for those 1,000 years. He's removed from the scene temporarily.
Okay. But the lake of fire still exists during this time.
Yes, that's an important timeline note from the sources. The lake of fire is already active before the 1,000-year kingdom even begins. Remember, Revelation 19.20 says the beast and the false prophet are thrown into it 1,000 years earlier.
Right, so it's a present reality, a warning perhaps, throughout the millennium.
It seems so. Then, after the 1,000 years are over, Satan is released for a short time, leads a final rebellion.
Which is quickly crushed.
Yes. And then Satan himself is finally cast into the lake of fire, joining the beast and false prophet.
And following that comes the great white throne judgment for all the remaining dead. And then the ultimate act of cosmic cleanup.
Yes, the definitive conclusion.
Yeah.
Revelation 20.14 states, "Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire." This, it says, is the second death.
They aren't just emptied, they are destroyed, thrown into the fire.
Yes, utterly destroyed.
Why? Why must death itself and Hades, the place of the dead, be destroyed? Why not just leave them empty? This feels like it loops back to the very beginning, to the whole purpose of creation.
It does. It brings us full circle to the reason for this entire intricate cosmic structure and drama, the completion of free will.
Explain that connection.
The entire system, creating limited beings, allowing the fall, providing the cross, setting up these structural constraints of time and space, the whole purification process, it was all designed, according to these sources, to do one thing, to perfect the creature's free will before they experience eternal life, or eternal death for that matter. The love show on the cross, that compelling reason, that conviction, Napduk we talked about, was the perfect catalyst for the creature to freely choose to abandon sin forever.
So through experiencing the consequences of sin, seeing the love of God, and being empowered to overcome, the creature makes a final, irrevocable choice. Their conviction is sealed.
Yes, their free will is completed, perfected.
And what does a completed free will guarantee?
It guarantees permanent righteousness. It means the creature, having gone through this entire process and made that final convinced choice for God, will never fall again. Their love and loyalty are now intrinsic, unshakable, eternal.
Okay, so once free will is perfected in the righteous, what happens to the structures related to sin and imperfection?
They become obsolete. If no one who enters the final state will ever commit sin again, then death, which the Bible calls the wages of sin, is completely unnecessary.
No sin, no death.
Right. And if death is unnecessary, then Hades, the prison designed to hold sinners and the dead, is also completely unnecessary. It's redundant.
So when these core structural elements of the temporary fallen creation, death and Hades, become obsolete because sin has been permanently dealt with in the redeemed.
They are functionally destroyed, cast into the lake of fire. The source concludes that when everything related to the possibility and consequence of sin is finally removed and destroyed, then creation is finally structurally complete, perfected, finished. #tag outro.
Wow, okay. We started this deep dive by trying to wrap our heads around the sheer, almost terrifying scale of a transcendent creator who sees entire nations as specks of dust. And we ended up mapping this incredibly intricate cosmic structure, culminating in a completed creation where fundamental concepts like death and Hades are literally thrown away as obsolete redundancies. So, bringing it back home, what's the relevance of charting all this complex cosmic geography for us? Right here, right now.
Well, I think the primary relevance is understanding that every single aspect of our existence, our life, our breath, literally all things, as Acts 17.25 says, is actively sustained by God's power. It's not automatic.
Yeah.
And this complex, detailed cosmic plan we've just mapped out with all its layers and boundaries, it's all anchored in his sustaining will. And it seems specifically designed to create the necessary space, the necessary context for your moral choice to matter profoundly.
So the ultimate purpose behind this staggering architecture, the veils, the glass seas, the separating waters, the different heavens, it was always intimately tied to the perfection of our tiny, limited individual free will. Our personal moral journey is somehow the centerpiece of this entire cosmic drama.
That appears to be the core message emerging from these sources, yes. And that perfection, that completion of free will, is ultimately achieved not through force, but through a powerful, compelling love. You know, the sources brought up that intense imagery from the Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 6, describing God's love, or perhaps the perfected creature's love in return, as being strong as death, with passion or jealousy as cruel as the grave or Sheol, a love that many waters cannot quench.
A love that powerful is what ultimately compels and secures the final choice, making it willing and making it permanent.
That's the idea. It's the force that ensures the drama concludes with a freely chosen eternal yes.
Okay, so here's the final thought for you, the listener, to take away and mull over. If the final completion of creation requires the actual structural destruction of death and Hades, the ultimate consequences and domains of sin and separation, what then is the nature of the existence that remains?
Yeah, think about that. An existence where the very possibility of separation from the Creator, the possibility of falling, the possibility of death is finally, structurally, permanently zero. We've charted a cosmos designed for temporary learning, for testing, for choice. It culminates, apparently, in a state of eternal, perfected freedom, where the uncertainty is gone, replaced by permanent, unshakable righteousness. What does that truly look and feel like? That's the grand, final architecture of the actual sanctuary.